At the time, did you know who Ashley Benefield was?
Yes.
Did you later become involved with Ashley Benefield with reference to CAC?
Yes.
Okay. And around December 2019, were there several investigations that came in, started a series of several investigations that came into your department?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask you about the first report or the first investigation. About when was that?
Can I refer to my report?
Sure, go right ahead.
December 10th, 2019.
Okay. And generally speaking, what was the complaint?
Judge, based on prior motions and we...
Yes, sir. I understand. Overruled. Go ahead.
Thanks, sir. This investigation involved allegations of sexual abuse.
Okay. So sexual abuse, obviously, of a child.
Yes, ma'am.
And who was the child?
Emerson Canny.
And who was the complaint against?
Douglas Benfield.
Objection. Oh, I'm sorry, withdrawn.
Is it the same objection?
No, withdrawn.
Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
So did you get assigned to the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And so just as a matter of procedure, when you initially, when Manatee County Sheriff's Office gets a case, you're not initially assigned right away, right?
No.
What happens before you get
Generally, what happens in cases like this is, however we receive the report, whether it be through the hotline, whether it gets reported directly to the sheriff's office, a uniformed deputy along with a child protection investigator will go out to the scene. The uniformed officer will normally write the information down in a report, and that information gets filtered through our supervision, and if it needs to be assigned, it's assigned.
Okay. So theoretically, on this particular complaint, there had been some work done before you got it?
That's correct.
Okay. And then did you continue that investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And as part of that investigation, was Emerson sent to the child protection team?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is the child protection team?
The Child Protection Team is a state-funded team that,
Same objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay.
for my criminal investigations.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sustained. Next question.
Okay. Did you talk to Douglas Benefield?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you also speak to Ashley Benefield?
I don't recall if I spoke with Ashley on that particular case. I believe she was interviewed already.
Okay. And what did you do with the case? Were any charges filed?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I want to talk to you about the second report. At the time, did you know who Ashley Benefield was?
Yes.
Did you later become involved with Ashley Benefield with reference to CAC?
Yes.
Okay. And around December 2019, were there several investigations that came in, started a series of several investigations that came into your department?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask you about the first report or the first investigation. About when was that?
Can I refer to my report?
Sure, go right ahead.
December 10th, 2019.
Okay. And generally speaking, what was the complaint?
Judge, based on prior motions and we...
Yes, sir. I understand. Overruled. Go ahead.
Thanks, sir. This investigation involved allegations of sexual abuse.
Okay. So sexual abuse, obviously, of a child.
Yes, ma'am.
And who was the child?
Emerson Canny.
And who was the complaint against?
Douglas Benfield.
Objection. Oh, I'm sorry, withdrawn.
Is it the same objection?
No, withdrawn.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So, did you get assigned to the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And so, just as a matter of procedure, when you initially, when Manatee County Sheriff's Office gets a case, you're not initially assigned right away, right?
No.
What happens before you get
Generally, what happens in cases like this is, however we receive the report, whether it be through the hotline, whether it gets reported directly to the sheriff's office, a uniformed deputy along with a child protection investigator will go out to the scene. The uniformed officer will normally write the information down in a report, and that information gets filtered through our supervision, and if it needs to be assigned, it's assigned.
Okay. So theoretically, on this particular complaint, there had been some work done before you got it?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, did you continue that investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And as part of that investigation, was Emerson sent to the child protection team?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is the child protection team?
The child protection team is a state-funded team that, for
Same objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay.
for my criminal investigations.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sustained. Next question.
Okay. Did you talk to Douglas Benefield?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you also speak to Ashley Benefield?
I don't recall if I spoke with Ashley on that particular case. I believe she was interviewed already.
Okay. And what did you do with the case? Were any charges filed?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I want to talk to you about the second report, and that was what date?
Report date was March 21st, 2020.
Okay.
March 21st.
2020?
Generally speaking, what was that allegation?
That was a physical abuse allegation.
Okay. Physical abuse against,
Douglas Benfield.
and the victim of that would have been?
Emerson Canny.
Okay, same parties.
Mhm.
And how old was Emerson at the time, approximately?
2 years old.
And again, the same question, had some things been done before you got the case?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you continue that investigation?
I did.
And at some point, did a second complaint come in before you were finished?
On the 23rd of, so March 23rd, 2020. Yes.
Okay, so a couple days later. And what was this complaint?
It was again physical abuse.
Different than what came in a few days before?
Yes.
Okay. Did you investigate those two things together?
I put them in the same report. Yes.
Okay. And what did you do with those cases?
No charges were filed.
And I'd like to talk to you about the third report. When did that come to MSO, or when did you get it?
April 5th, 2020.
Okay. And generally speaking, what was that allegation?
Physical abuse.
Of Emerson?
Yeah.
And by Doug
Douglas.
Benefield?
Yes.
And once again, before it was over, did you get another complaint?
On the 27th, another deputy responded.
Okay. And what was that complaint?
Again, physical abuse.
Same parties?
Yes.
Did you again investigate those two case numbers together?
Yes.
And what did you do with those cases?
No charges were filed.
At some point, were you a part of what's called a staffing?
Yes.
And what is a staffing?
Staffing is when the entities, as I mentioned before, come together and try to find a good way, or moving forward, a good way to protect the child.
Okay. And did you attend a staffing on this particular case?
The plethora
The
case,
Benefield,
yes.
yes. And as a result of that, were Ashley and Doug assigned to go to therapy with Dr. Britta, or not therapy, an evaluation with Dr. Britta?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Cross?
Yes. Just a few questions for you,
Yes, sir.
Detective Moore. The cases that you referred to, I think you said there were 5 of them.
Yes, sir.
I don't want any details.
Okay.
Those cases have to be reported, correct?
Yes,
That's how they're initiated.
that's correct.
And would it be safe to say that in this case, the reporters, without any names, the reporters were
Objection calls for here's that.
Go ahead and finish your question.
not all the same?
That I wouldn't know. I'd have to go look.
Do you have the reports with you?
I do have the reports with me. I
Why
don't
don't
know if it's going to tell me who the reporter was.
Something,
Whether
clicking something over here. If you are, please stop.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't want to know names.
Okay,
Okay. The names are confidential, are they not?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I just merely want you to tell us whether or not, in fact, the reporters were different individuals. Would you search your
I can
file?
look. I don't think the reports
Yeah.
are going to tell me, but
Judge already objected hearsay.
Right now, the question is just,
Whether the reports were from different
Oh.
individuals.
so it appears the report on 12/10/2019.
I just want to, because we're in a bit of a delicate area, Detective, I just want to establish whether or not, if in reviewing your reports, you're able to tell us if the reports were initiated by different individuals.
By looking at my reports, I cannot tell you that indefinitely.
Did you at any time personally interview Ashley Benefield?
I may have. I don't recall if I ever interviewed Ashley. I know I interviewed Douglas quite often. Initially, when I get these cases, the
Did you? I'm sorry.
Interviews with her were already completed. So.
Did you at any time personally interview the child?
No.
I don't believe I have anything else. Let me just check, Your Honor. That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Correct.
I believe you said, with respect to did you interview Ashley, that you said by the time it gets to you, a lot of times those interviews have been done.
That's correct.
And that would be by who?
Uniform.
Uniform. And then he asked, did you interview the child? Do you normally interview children?
No.
What is the protocol for children?
Forensic interviews are done by child protection team.
Okay. And so generally speaking, you wouldn't say you interviewed children.
No.
And was this child of an age to be interviewed anyway?
No.
Okay. No further questions.
Sir?
That's all.
Can this witness be released? Just with your loud, clear voice, you should hear everything.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and spell your last name.
Daniel Dickerman, Dickerman.
And where do you work?
At the Manatee County Sheriff's Office
How long have you worked there?
for almost 29 years.
What is your current position?
I'm a lieutenant in road patrol.
And what was your position back in 2020?
I was the senior homicide investigator assigned to the Manatee Homicide Investigative Unit.
Okay, so Manatee County, say that again?
Manatee Homicide Investigative Unit, MHIU.
MHIU. Okay.
Yes.
So you were the senior investigator in that unit?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could just explain a little bit, what is that unit?
So that unit is a group of detectives formulated from all the agencies within the county, the Sheriff's Office, Braden Police Department, Palmetto Police Department, and all 3 beach agencies. We all respond out to all homicides that occur within the county, regardless of city jurisdiction, everything, so we can all work together and investigate that and determine if any criminality as a result of that homicide will need to come forward.
And just discuss a little bit how you work as a unit, and is that different than how a detective may work in a different part of the sheriff's office?
Yes. In the sheriff's office, most cases are assigned to a single detective. They go out, they do all the work, they write the report, they bring everything together in a normal, smaller case. In these cases, we determine what we call a lead detective. That lead detective then becomes, for all intents and purposes, the supervisor of the case. He makes assignments, we go out, all the other detectives, we do our respective assignments, we report back. The lead detective becomes a basic gathering point and a keeper of all the information to make sure the flow goes smoothly to one location and we're not duplicating efforts or stepping over each other's toes, and then he makes the ultimate decision once he has all the information.
Okay. And are you, as a unit, a part of any decision-making that happens within the unit or that happens in a case?
Yeah, we have meetings on every case
Okay.
to discuss the comings and goings and the happenings of the different case.
And so did you work in this unit, the MHIU, at the time that the shooting occurred?
I did.
On the date of the shooting, were you called, were you notified of the shooting?
I was.
Okay. And about what time was that
It
approximately?
was between 7:30 and 8 p.m.
Did you go to the scene?
I did.
And when I say the scene, where the shooting happened.
Yes, to the neighborhood of
Okay.
White Rock, I believe it was.
Was the defendant there?
Yes.
Where was she?
She was in the back seat of Deputy Burley's patrol vehicle.
Did you go into the house?
Not at that point. I did after the crime scene unit had already documented everything and made sure nothing would be contaminated, done their investigation inside. Then I went in briefly at the end.
Okay. And what did you see?
I saw some blood trail on the floor, a bullet strike in the wall of the bedroom from a projectile, and that's about it.
And were other members of your unit there at that scene?
Yes.
Were there other members of the unit at other scenes or other places?
Yes. Detectives were also sent to our main offices, Criminal Investigation Division, which is where our interview rooms and our offices are located.
Okay. And from the beginning of when you arrived on scene, you knew that there was a self-defense element of this crime.
Sustained.
Did you know there was a self-defense element when you got there?
Object to leading.
I'll overrule on that.
Yes.
Okay. While you were at the scene, were you made aware that the defendant was going to be going to the station?
Yes.
Okay. Was the defendant's mother, Alicia Byers, there?
Yes.
Did you speak to her?
Yes.
And at some point, did she hand you a phone?
She did.
Okay. And did you know why she was handing you the phone?
Originally, no, but then
Okay.
I found out shortly after.
Who was on the phone?
A lawyer.
Okay. And did you speak to that lawyer?
Object.
Sustained.
Did you explain to Alicia Byers what was going on and where her daughter was going to go?
I did.
And ultimately, how many lawyers ended up at
Relevance.
If you want to approach and explain the relevance.
Sometime in November.
was she ever arrested that night?
Object leading.
Sustained.
When was she arrested?
Sometime in November.
Okay. And the shooting happened?
In September.
Okay. And that seems to be a month or two delay. Do you know what delayed that?
But for the investigation to continue into the self-defense claim.
Okay. Did you go to the neighbor's house, John Sant?
I did go there briefly, yes.
Okay. And did you have any discussions with him or anyone?
I did not, no.
Okay. Was Child Protection Services on the scene?
Yes, they were called to the scene.
And just briefly, what is Child Protection Services?
Objection. Relevance. Consistent with the court's prior concern, 403.
Overruled.
What is Child Protection Services?
At the time, it was a division of the sheriff's office entrusted with protecting the children from abuse, or make sure they're in good locations, or just make sure they're healthy.
Okay. So do you know why they were there?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did CPS try to speak to Alicia Byers?
Yes.
Okay. Were you present when
Yes.
Alicia Byers?
Yes.
Was Alicia Byers cooperative with them?
I wouldn't say fully cooperative. She did ultimately answer a vast majority of the questions, but not cooperative per se.
Okay. And was there anyone else present at the time when they were trying to speak to Alicia Byers?
Off and on, Barbara Russell was present.
Did you also assist in executing a search warrant?
Yes, I was on scene
And where was that search warrant? Was that at the house?
at the house.
Okay. Did you have any assignments for gathering evidence?
Yes.
And what evidence was that?
To originally look for video in the area of the park of the neighborhood.
And did you do that?
I did.
Were you able to obtain video?
I was.
And on that video, did you see what we believe to be Alicia Byers and the child at the park?
Yes, they were at the park.
Did you also obtain other types of videos?
Yeah, I also viewed ring video from the scene itself.
Objection. Relevance.
What video?
Ring from the
Ring.
scene.
Overruled. I mean, you could say he viewed it.
Okay. And in viewing that, did you see any part of the incident that we're here about? Was it captured on the Ring camera?
The shooting, no. The arrival of the U-Haul and the arrival of the deputies were on there.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Cross.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Good morning.
So through your testimony, among other things, the state proved this morning that there was a U-Haul truck there
Yes.
and that the deputies arrived
Yes.
and that there was a homicide.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that often the practice is when you respond to a homicide, it takes some time to conduct an investigation to determine if there's criminality.
Absolutely.
Okay, so in other words, you don't come upon a homicide and determine as soon as you see a dead body it's murder.
Correct.
Okay. If I wanted a job in your unit that you supervise and I felt all homicides are murders.
Objection.
Fair question, Your Honor.
Objection. Pre-trial ruling.
Sustained.
You mentioned that the arrest of Miss Benefield, well, let me start from, I think you told us she was in the back of the squad car.
Yes, sir.
She was in handcuffs.
Yes.
And this is a squad car with the doors that you can't open from the inside and the back, correct?
That's correct.
With a cage.
Yes.
So she's in the back of the squad car, in handcuffs behind her back,
Yes.
in a car with a cage, and you can't open the doors, but she wasn't under arrest.
No, she wasn't charged with anything.
Okay. So, I think you told us that the reason for her being arrested approximately 6 weeks later, I think, was so that the investigation could be conducted.
Correct.
Because you had to determine if there was criminality.
Correct.
Okay. Could have been a homicide that was self-defense.
Could have been. That was the
That's
claim.
the whole point of the investigation.
Absolutely.
And that kind of an investigation, understandably, takes time
It does.
and patience
Yes.
and professionalism
Yes.
and knowledge and experience.
Yes.
Do you know how old Lieutenant Alicia Byers is?
I don't.
Do you recall meeting her?
I do.
Approximately, give us your best shot.
I mean, I would guess in her 40s to 50s.
All right. Was she a young woman?
No.
She was pretty exhausted that day, wasn't she?
She appeared to be. There was a lot going on.
Yeah. Would it be a fair statement, Lieutenant? You seem like a pretty straight guy. Was she emotionally distraught?
Yes, there's a lot of emotions going on there, yes.
In fact, her first thought upon coming back from the park with the daughter and seeing the
Objection.
cars was
Hearsay.
that her daughter
Please
was dead.
stop
Sustained.
talking.
Unless you'd like to make an argument for an exception, then you can approach.
Rest gesti?
Well, if you'd like to approach,
It's all right, Your Honor. I think, Lieutenant, excuse me, you told us that you went into the residence after crime scene had completed their portion of the investigation.
Yes, sir.
And do you recall crime scene was there before or after EMS?
A crime scene comes after EMS. The sanctity of life always comes first.
All right. So EMS was there first, and you were there, so you know they dragged Mr. Benefield out of the home from
Yes.
the bedroom.
Yes.
So when you told us that crime scene was there to preserve the scene, can we agree, Lieutenant, that what crime scene preserved was the scene following the EMS people not only working on him in that bedroom, but moving?
Yes, as always, that we preserve the scene after we attempt to save the life.
Okay. And so those crime scene photos show us, for example, what that scene looked like when crime scene took the photograph.
That is correct.
It doesn't show us what the scene looked like when EMS was running around doing what they do.
That's not possible. No, that's correct.
Okay, and that would have included the initial deputies on the scene as well.
That's
God bless
correct.
you. Give me just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
No.
Can this witness?
Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate your candor.
Thank you, sir.
That's all.